My name is Mike Meyers. I'm State Coordinator for A.B.A.T.E of Illinois, and this is Ride Smart, a biker's perspective. It was done in cooperation with the Illinois Department of Transportation Division of Traffic Safety, and this was brought upon because there was a motorcycle fatality rate in middle of May 2012 that was just so high that was concerning everybody. And Terry Redmond with IDOT gave myself and a couple of my e-board officers a call with a couple other organizations to try to find out, can we have a conference call and talk about it and see if we can come up with some plan of action to try to reduce these fatalities, because it was just happening too many times. And so in this process of the discussion, myself and my three officers came to the IDOT facility where the conference call was going to be, because we're believers in face-to-face communication. A lot more things can get accomplished, a lot more understanding of how truly we feel about saving motorcyclists' lives and preventing the crashes in the first place. We had this conversation. Based on that conversation, I've been a troubleshooter most of all my adult life, and I want to know what the root causes are. And we talked about what the root causes might be. Well, speculation is not what we wanted or needed. What we needed was facts. And this presentation is facts. You're not going to see pie charts. You're not going to see bar graphs. You're not going to see percentages. This is all about preventing the crash in the first place. Not having a safer crash, but preventing this crash in the first place. So we're going to get started here. Ride smart. It's a choice. It is your choice. And riding is all about the choices you make during that ride. And that's why, you know, we say ride smart. It's your choice. It is definitely your choice. Okay, we all make choices in life. Why not take time to think about what smart riding choices you want to make? Makes sense, right? Check your bike before each ride. A.B.A.T.E of Illinois has T-Clock. Many other organizations have the same thing. And T-Clock is where you check over your motorcycle every single time you ride. And we have brochures. You can go on our website and copy them off of our A.B.A.T.E of Illinois website. And you can actually see all the checklists. And I recommend, my choice is, when I ride, is to check off that checklist every single time before I get onto that motorcycle. It doesn't take that much time, but it can save your life. And you'll see some of the choices that were made in this presentation that might have helped them, you know, have a safer ride. Drinking alcohol and riding, is that a good choice? Again, something for you to consider. Drugs in riding, not only prescription drugs, but illegal drugs. Is that a good choice to be made? We'll see some results later on. Evaluate your medical condition to ride. That's something that's really coming up even higher, and you'll see the results of some of that later in the presentation. But most of the riders are getting older. They're older riders, and of course, when you get older riders, medical condition comes into the factor. And I'll be talking more about some of the choices that can be made in that. Be aware on your ride. That's one thing that I've always tried to do, and I learned early on that when you're riding, you be aware of your surroundings. You're always searching. You're always scanning. Never be complacent when you're riding. That's how I've been having safe rides my entire life, but that doesn't guarantee one, but it does ensure that you'll have a better ride. Assume you are seen. People say, well, I came to an intersection and that individual saw me. They were looking right at me. And I tell them, no, they weren't. They were looking past you. Motorcycles are small. They are not looking at you. They're looking past you. And that's why so many of the people pull out in front of motorcyclists. And then I've read so many comments that I didn't see them. I didn't see them. That's why we look twice, save a life. You know, that's not just a fun phrase. It is really a phrase that really does matter. So assuming that you're seen, I assume that nobody sees me, and I go accordingly. Type of traffic. Always consider the type of traffic you're in. In Illinois, I do a lot of presentations up in the Chicagoland area, and I'm going to tell you there's a lot of traffic up there. There's a lot of fatalities, crashes up there. That it's just the traffic patterns up there are very congested, and people aren't paying attention. So pick the type of traffic type of traffic you're going to be running in, and if you want to or you can adjust your riding for that day to accommodate a lower traffic pattern. Proper braking. I'm going to talk about that several times in this presentation because I've seen so many times when proper braking wasn't used, and you say, well, what's proper braking? At minimum, 60% of your braking ability is in your front wheel of the motorcycle. Some motorcycles it's even greater than that, but at minimum, 60% of your braking is in the front wheel. Then the rest is in your rear wheel. Many riders don't understand that. They haven't taken the cycle rider training program. They haven't had proper training on how to properly brake. So they think braking with the back brake is good enough. It's not, and I'll be talking about that in some of the results of braking that wasn't there. And people say, well, I'll do that if I got an emergency situation, I'll use both brakes. I tell them, no, you won't. You will do whatever comes natural to you. Whatever comes natural, that's what you're going to do. So you need to practice it. You need to make that part of your riding. And when you do that, you will have proper braking at the right time. Motorcycle Rider Safety Training Course. In Illinois, we're very fortunate. We're one of the few states that virtually it is free. You do have to pay a nominal fee in the beginning, but if you pass the course, you get your money back. But the thing is, or you can donate it. But the thing is you get some very good training. And there's 3 levels of training that you can actually get, and it's so imperative that you start with the first one, then you go to the next level, then you go to the next level, and then say 3 to 5 years down the road, you go back and do it again, because there's things that you will forget, and you'll start to get bad habits again. I've talked to a lot of riders that have taken the course, even the basic course, that have ridden for years and said, boy, did I learn a lot. I have a lot of things that I do that really I shouldn't be doing, and I learned a lot, and it's amazing. And as we get older, again, we'll talk about the older riders. As you get older, it's all about your reaction time is less the older you get. So this gives you more tools to have to actually make you a better rider, even though your reaction time is less, but your mental state is better. This study is based on motorcycle crashes in Illinois that resulted in fatalities in 2011 and 2012. Okay, these are all motorcycle crashes that had fatalities. Okay, and I talked earlier about root causes. I'm going to break it down to root causes because as a troubleshooter, if I know what the root cause is, then I categorize them from the highest cause to the lowest cause, and then we can work at each level and work down to the point of getting rid of as many crashes as we possibly can. So you can see here in 2011, the Motorcyclist Impaired. That was either alcohol, illegal drugs, or both. And I saw some that were both, and some levels of BAC level that were higher than I thought anybody could even walk, let alone live and get on a motorcycle and travel a short distance. And so then you see the second one was right-of-way violation. Right-of-way violation is right-of-way violation by others. In other words, another vehicle, whether it be a car, truck, semi, they violated the right-of-way of the motorcyclist, whether they turned in front of them, made a U-turn, and I'll go in depth on that when we get further into this. But you can see the top two, they switched from 2011 to 2012, but still, these are things that shouldn't be going on, but choices that are being made that could have better choices for a better end result. Motorcyclist riding skills. Again, this comes back to the cycle rider training program. Good training would take care of a lot of the skills. Now, when I talk about skills, there is no alcohol or drugs in their system at the time of the crash. It was just flat out they weren't able to ride, and I'll get into details on that. Motorcycle speed. Motorcycle speed, actually, you can see the top four here. The top four here. Who has control of the three of the top four? Us, bikers, motorcyclists. We have control of three of the top four. We don't always have control of the right-of-way violations, but I'm going to go into some detail on that because some instances we do have some control. But I was kind of upset about this, because it was like I thought this would be higher, this was going to be lower, and this would be higher, but still, they're in the top 4. We have control, and that's why we're doing this program to see if we can't make the difference. And then we get down to motorcycle versus animal. It moved around a little bit. Motorcyclist medical condition, you can see it was lower here, but it went up here, and I'll get into detail on that. And so then we get into the other circumstances, which would be motorcycle equipment, road condition, construction zone. I thought those would be up higher, that there'd be a lot more fatalities. I've been through a lot of construction zones where I've almost been launched off my motorcycle, and I was going the speed limit for the construction zone. But they're not designed for motorcycles. There'll be a lot of dips that cars, 4 wheels, can handle easily, but on a motorcycle, if you hit it wrong, you can be launched. And I was almost launched off a bridge one time, but thank goodness I had my both hands on the handlebars. So now we're going to go into the categories. Motorcyclist impaired. Again, that was number 1 in 2011, number 2 in 2012, and here's the breakdown. It was alcohol and drugs. 49 crashes resulted in 52 fatalities in 2011, 45 operator, 7 passenger. Now when I say crashes, that means there's 49 crashes. That means there was 49 operators. Some people get confused with that, but it was 49 operators. So what this is telling us is 4 of the operators survived the crash. Their passengers did not. One of the choices that I make is I make sure that my passenger is able to ride on a motorcycle, because if you don't have a sense of balance, you shouldn't be on the motorcycle. You shouldn't even be a passenger on the motorcycle. But the other thing is impaired passengers. They can throw your balance off too. But you're responsible for getting them home. If you're impaired, is that a good choice to put somebody on the back? Something to consider. 2012, the number went down a little bit, but not enough. Look at that, 37 crashes, 37 fatalities. They were all operator. So you say, well, there was no passengers, but this didn't have to happen, nor this. But I broke it down further where you got 31 vehicle, 27 one vehicle. That's motorcyclists only. And this is where they impacted other vehicles. These were all at fault. These motorcyclists were all at fault. They weren't at fault for somebody else. Then you look at the 11 no M classification, 5 no M classification. You say, well, what does that have to do with this? It has a lot to do with it, because at least if you have your M classification, you've got some skill set for it, and you should have some skill set to know that riding that motorcycle, you need everything about you to be able to ride that motorcycle, and when you don't, it's not going to work out. So then you say, okay, what really happened here? Contributory causes: unable to negotiate curves, hit fixed objects, riding in a group, rear-ended other motorcycle or motorcycles, ran through gate, hit a train, lost control, ran off roadway. This one happened in 2012, and I was just simply amazed, because the reconstruction of the crash and everything, they failed to negotiate a curve in the rain at 120 miles an hour. In dry weather, I don't care if you're a road racer, you could not have made that curve. But they were impaired. They had no inkling of what they were doing and how they were doing it. Did it need to happen? No, it didn't. People say, well, what kind of motorcycle it was? It was all different types of motorcycle. From every one spectrum to the other. It wasn't just one. I mean, there was even a scooter in there, and sport bikes and Harleys, and every motorcycle was involved in this. So it's not just one segment of the riding group. Now we look at the age groups. You say, oh, well, here we go. Look at that. That's pretty heavy right here. Pretty heavy here, but it's more heavy here. But look at the shift. Now, granted, this is only 1 year's time difference, but there is a shift here, and we attribute a lot of this right here is returning riders. We're thinking that returning riders aren't really more aware. They've been driving 4 wheels and they've been having cocktails, and they do okay with that, and they think they can get on a motorcycle. Not the case. So, choices. Time of day. One of the things I want to point out is 4 to 6 p.m. Look at those numbers there based on any other time of day. Even as we call, the bewitching hour, bar time, even it outnumbers the bar time. And it's during the week. Some of it's during the week, a lot of it's on the weekend. And that comes up quite often. When I started doing the study and I was sitting down going through, 4 to 6 p.m. really stood out in a lot of the categories. It's because people are going home from work, they're not paying attention, they're thinking about what they're going to be doing. But why are they impaired at those times? Most of them are on the weekends here, but then there were some in the middle of the week. Okay, right-of-way violations by others. This is by others. It's not by motorcyclists, not by bikers. It's by others. 36 crashes resulted in 37 fatalities. 34 operator, 3 passenger. Again, 2 of the operators survived the crash. You say, well, the right-of-way violation was by others, so it wasn't the operator's fault. Well, there's a lot of things, and I'll get into some of the things that could have been done or some choices that could have been made at that point in time. It really dramatically increased in 2012 to be number 1 root cause. 49 operators, 5 passengers, and one of the cagers, as we call them, or operators of the other vehicle, pulled out in front of a motorcycle, and the motorcycle broadsided that driver's side, and it not only killed the driver, but it killed the motorcyclist as well. Very sad situation. And then you come down here, you say, okay, how many of them were impaired? How many of the cagers or the other motor vehicles were impaired? 11 got DUIs as a result of the crash. 11 of them, 37 fatalities. 11 of the fatalities were 30 of the 37 fatalities. 9 operator, 2 passenger. That's quite a few. And then it was amazing. The next year we have another 11, resulted in 11 fatalities, 10 operator, 1 passenger. So it's interesting that it happened 2 years in a row with the same numbers, but it's disheartening because it doesn't have to happen. And you can see how many other vehicles were involved. Now, these people, you say, okay, here you go again. 7 no M classification, 7 no M classification. 3 had the cycle rider training program in both categories, in both years. But the no M classification, you get writing skills that you get in that program that can help you. And you say, well, how can they help you? Well, here's some of the contributing causes that goes along with what happened. Left turn in motorcycle path, U-turn in motorcycle path, fail to reduce speed, rear-ended motorcycle, merge, sideswipe, cross center line, in path of motorcycle. You say, well, what could have the operator done? Well, I read so many times in the reports that the operator only had rear braking only. 188 feet of rear braking only. I'm going to tell you, if they had used both brakes simultaneously for that distance, they would have had far less impact, if no impact. They might have fallen over, but falling over when you're stopped is much better than an impact at 30 plus miles an hour. So there's a lot of things I talked about earlier, being aware of your surroundings. Always look. Always look. I've had people do rolling stops at stop signs, and they just do that rolling stop and they keep going. I keep slowing down. That's my choice. I keep slowing down. I come to the point that sometimes I even stop. And they get mad. It's like, you stop, I'll continue. I don't know what you're going to do. You might know what you're going to do, but I don't. It's my life. It's my choice to say, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to do whatever I can. So it's one of those things you got to think about. This was an impaired driver in the car here. Can't really tell real well, but there's 3 motorcycles right in here. He impacted 11 motorcycles altogether. The only reason he didn't impact the 12th one is because these 3 motorcycles slowed him down. Look at the face on that first responder. He will never forget that. That's an event that he will never forget. Does it need to happen? No, it doesn't. And here's the age groups of the riders. Again, we got a lot of them are in the older riders. I mean, we got some here, but older riders, returning riders as we call some of them, because they've been gone for 30 years, 20 years. They got their M classification, Maybe 30 years ago they had a 500cc bike. Now they got a 1800cc bike. A lot heavier, twice the weight. The dynamics are so much different on the new bikes today than they are back then. So getting your skill level, even though it's right-of-way violation by others, getting your skill set, your reaction time. The older we get, or like I said, the reaction time is less, but we can compensate with that by more education, more training. That's so imperative. Time of day. Look at that, 4 to 6 p.m. in 2012, 14. That was a lot of cagers not paying attention on the way home. Coming home thinking about what they're going to do when they get home, what they're going to make for supper, what they got to do for the yard work, what the family's doing. All those things, they're not thinking, they're not paying attention. And I looked at every single piece of paper and every file, and some of them were that thick, and I'm going to tell you, it's heart-wrenching to read some of these reports and understand what happened. And then when it comes down to asking the driver what happened, well, I didn't see him. Well, maybe paying attention more would help. It's choices we make, but we need to do that. Motorcyclist riding skills. This was taken out in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Some of the most beautiful country you can ride in, but some of the hardest roads that you can do. So you need to have really a good skill set to really manipulate those curves and those hills and enjoy them and come home safe. So riding skills. Now again, this is no impairment, no alcohol, no drugs involved in this at all. Just flat out riding skills. There was 20 crashes in 2011, 20 fatalities, 18 operator, 2 passenger. Again, there was 20 operators, 2 went home. 2012, 23 crashes, 24 fatalities, 22 operators, 2 passengers. You know, so again, an operator went home, their passenger didn't. Choices we make. 13 of them were one vehicle, 12 were one vehicle. And then you get into the different things. But look at this, 4 no M classifications, 4 M no classifications, 2 years running. You say, what happened? Well, they haven't had a skill test. I mean, it's a minimal skill test, but it is a skill test. And, you know, and that doesn't guarantee that some of these other ones, yeah, they might have had their M classification for years, so their skill set really isn't where it needs to be. What happened? This is a common thing. Failed to negotiate a curve. It's not a bicycle. It's not a car. You don't steer it through the curve. Panic stop, lost control, rear braking only. And many of them were rear braking only. They could have avoided what happened by using both brakes. Cross the center line. They just weren't in good control, and they crossed the center line. They were on an on-ramp, and they must have been excited about getting into onto the interstate, and they accelerated faster than what they could control it. They lost control and went across traffic. Did not work well. It was a choice that didn't work well for them. Failed to judge stopping distance. It was a rainy day. A group was riding. One of the riders locked up their brakes. They went down, and they didn't make it. But they didn't understand that at a stoplight, when you're coming upon a stoplight and it's raining, it's going to be slippery, especially at that intersection. They're going to be the most slippery spots you can stop at. So you need to accommodate that. Again, that's riding skills. Those are some of the skill sets that you can get with the Cycle Rider Training Program. Age groups really is pretty broad here. But again, right here, 51 to 60, starting to show up. Granted, it's only 1 year. We hope to do this, at least another year to try to get a better feeling of what's going on so we can get the information out there to everybody. Time of day, day of week. 46 is not as dominant, but it's at the height. It's at the high number. Again, people aren't paying attention. They're in a hurry during the week. Some of it's on the weekend, but during the week. All times of day. Going to work. Coming home. Just out for an evening ride. Things to think about, choices to be made. Motorcycle speed. I really thought this would be higher, but it wasn't. But it's on here, and I even hate to see it even here. And it was number 4 root cause both years, 2011 and 2012. 16 crashes, 16 fatalities in 2011, 16 operators. 14 crashes in 2012, 14 fatalities, 14 operators. Fortunate part, no passengers, but unfortunate that it was all speed, no alcohol, no drugs. They were just high on the ride. 5 M-No classifications, 6 M-No classifications. Again, you know, we really need to get people to ride in classification and get the training. No cycle rider training program in either year. 14 were sport bikes, 2 were Harleys. In 2011, 2012, 13 sport bikes, 1 Harley. Okay, sport bikes, you know, are dominant in this part of it, and we all see it, especially in the interstate going around Chicago. You'll see it all the time. Okay, contributing causes. Speeds in excess of 100 miles per hour, fail to negotiate curves at 100 miles an hour, riding on one wheel, passing on a shoulder, passing at an intersection, weaving in and out of traffic. And I'm going to tell you, most of them that happened, witness reports would say they were riding on one wheel, they were weaving in and out of traffic, and they were going in excess of 100 miles an hour. More than one witness would state that for many of the crashes that happened. And the result was, it was a fatal crash. They died because they were making bad choices in a bad place. You know, I'm a biker. I've ridden for years, and I'm going to tell you, twisting it, feeling the wind is a great thing, but you pick and choose when and where you do it. And that's my choice. They didn't make those choices. And I'm going to tell you right here, passing at an intersection, there was 2 vehicles stopped behind a small bus. The small bus was making a left-hand turn, crossing oncoming traffic. The motorcyclist came up behind the back car, came up into the oncoming traffic, and broadsided the small bus. It was a small bus. They moved the bus 15 feet. You don't think they were flying? They were flying. And there was one of these instances where a car in a 35 mile an hour speed zone pulled out in front of the motorcycle. Okay, but the motorcycle speed was estimated at 120 miles an hour in a 35. That person in that car had no idea, even if they saw that dot was going to be there before they finished their turn. That person has to live with that the rest of their life. The motorcyclist impacted, they had a very short skid mark, they impacted that side of that vehicle. The motorcycle went another 500 feet, broke in 2 pieces, and the operator landed about 600 feet before they came to rest. Amazing. Amazing. Didn't have to happen. Did not have to happen. Here's the age groups. It's concentrated here. That's what I expected. I was a little surprised here. Then it's really concentrated here again. I guess when we were younger, I know when I was younger, I was invincible. Nothing was going to get me. I survived Vietnam, so I can survive anything, right? That's not the case. That's not the case. It's just the situation you put yourself in, the choices you make. Time of day, day of week. Again, even up here at the bewitching hour, no alcohol, no drugs, just flat out, they were high on the ride. And even during the day, it really came out. 2011, it was pretty high for 4 to 6 p.m., so I don't know what they were trying to do, but it wasn't good. I don't have pictures of deer or raccoons or cows. This is the closest I got, but it kind of gets your attention. Motorcycle isn't going to win with a creature, with an animal. They're just not going to win. You say, what happened? 8 crashes in 2011, 8 fatalities, 7 operator, 1 passenger. 5 crashes in 2012, all operators. And 7 one vehicle, 1 two vehicle, all 5 one vehicle. All had their M classifications. None of them had the cycle rider training program. You say, well, that won't have an effect on the animal. Well, we have to understand when you're riding, you have to think about everything that's going on and be paying attention. And I'm not saying they weren't, but there's a good possibility they could have been. You say, what happened? Tried to avoid an animal. The animal was crossing the road. They tried to avoid the animal. They went in the ditch. Ditch is not a good place for a motorcyclist of any sort, and they hit the culvert. Didn't work out well. They thought it was a good plan. You don't know what is a good plan. You have to make take that thought process yourself. Riding, they were in the country, mainly in the country, time of year, spring and fall, but there was some in the summertime. And the ones in the summertime were cows. I had a couple here that hit a herd of cattle. They came up over a rise, coming home late at night, came up over a rise, and there was a herd of cattle. They impacted three of the cows. They didn't have a chance. Not a chance. Even going slower, something like that, it's your time is the only thing. But another few were deer. They're avoiding the animal. That was a deer. This one here is raccoon, and it's in here. A cager, a driver of another vehicle, tried to avoid a raccoon in the road, and so they went into the oncoming lane and went head on into the motorcyclist. So, choices that are made sometimes aren't going to be the best. So you need to think about all situations and talk about it. Sometimes with your passengers and see what is a good thought. Age groups. I'm not really sure what this is going to really show us, except the older we are, I guess the more that we are going to be riding at night in the country, coming home or whatever. Time of day. Some of them were in the daytime, middle of the day, right here. Especially these that had to be daylight. There wasn't anything in the reports that indicated it was bad weather. It was just during the daytime. So it can happen anytime, I guess is what we're trying to say, any day of the week. Not just predominantly in the evening. So we're going to get to medical condition. This is a critical one also. It was the number 7 root cause in 2011. It moved up to number 5 in 2012. We had 3 crashes, 3 fatalities, 3 operators in 2011. All were one vehicle. All had their M classification. 2012 we had 8 crashes, 9 fatalities, 8 operators, 1 passenger. 6 to 1 vehicle, 2 vehicle, all had their M classification. You say, well, okay, what happened? Contributory causes, right here, heart related. 3 in 2011, 6 in 2012. A big jump. A big jump. You say, well, that's a small number. Well, it's not. To me, it's a big number. And you say, well, how do you know what was going on? The witness reports, if they were riding with somebody else, the witness reports were, and you could see by the reconstruction that they were coming upon a curve. They didn't even try to negotiate the curve. No brake lights, no skid marks, just went straight. Others were their hands dropped off the handlebars and went down to onto their tank or down to their legs. Big indicators of what happened, but this is jumping, and I expect in the coming years, I expect to see that going up. Well, what can we do about it? What should we do as riders? Well, some of these people had indicators. Their body was telling them, I'm not feeling good today. The witness reports, they were talking about they weren't feeling good. They were having slight chest pains. Things like that. Your body's trying to tell you that something's going on. And to me, my body's trying to tell me something. Maybe I should listen, and the choice I would make is maybe I'm not going to take that ride today, even though I really want to, but I'm going to save it up for maybe another time. Another one was trying to get home from a long trip, and they called home and said, "Hey, I'm not feeling good. I've got chest pains." They tried to tell them to go to an emergency room to try to get that taken care of. They said, "I want to get home." I'm kind of a hard head, and years ago I would have probably said the same thing. But after seeing everything I've seen here, I'm going to rethink that. And unfortunately, they didn't make it home. So then we get down to fatigue. Fatigue, people say, well, how can you fall asleep on a motorcycle? I've done it. Not proud of it, but I've done it. I've tried to run 13 hours straight on a motorcycle, and that's not a good plan because you will fall asleep. You will fall asleep. The monotony, especially if you're on an interstate. And what happened here was they were very tired. They had called home and said, "Hey, I'm tired, but I'm on my way home." They must have fallen asleep because they crossed the center line in an area that there was no reason to cross the center line, and went into oncoming traffic. This one down here, I was haunted by. It was one of those ones that the individual's age was mid-30s, perfect body weight ratio, no prescription drugs, no alcohol, but they executed a curve just fine. They came out of the curve and then they just kind of drifted off the road, and then they impacted a tree and died as a result. And no brake lights, no skid marks. So what happened? And so it said further reports. And so I asked the people I was working with IDOT, we got to find out what happened here, because nothing makes any sense. I can't find anything. And then it came back that basically dehydration was a part of what happened. Dehydration, people say, well, I drink pop when I'm on the bike, or I'll have a beer. Well, I'm going to tell you, beer takes away your hydration. Pop doesn't do anything for you for hydration. The only thing that will is water. And then these drinks that they have with the electrolytes in it, that's going to be the best thing. And if you're on a long trip, even though you don't feel thirsty, you're on a long trip, the wind takes it away from you. And so when you stop for gas, my thing is, first time you get a bottle of water. Second time you get something that's got electrolytes in it. Every other time you do that. For me, that's a choice I make, and I've been very successful with it. Riding through the Black Hills, or it's 120 degrees going through the Badlands, and I've survived it. And I think it's because that's the regimen I go into. And it's just something to consider as a choice, because dehydration is a problem. So, medical condition, this isn't really a surprise. This is the one I just talked about with the dehydration. This is the fatigue, and that's the age group where they're more susceptible to heart attacks. And so consider how you feel that day before taking a ride. Might be a good choice. Something to think about before you take that ride. Okay, motorcyclist fault. This is the motorcyclist's fault. There was not impaired. They weren't speeding. And it only happened in 2011, but it was 4 crashes that had 4 fatalities. And you say, well, what happened? Well, this one was 2 vehicle, 1 3 vehicle. 1 had no M classification. Okay, what's the bottom line? Improper passing. Passing in a no passing zone. Went head on into another vehicle. You really need to pay attention to what's going on and where you're going to pass. You might be in a hurry, but some choices of making a pass in that kind of zone is not good. Disregarding a stop traffic signal. They ran a stoplight. It was red. It hadn't just changed. It was red. They just went through it. Ran a stop sign. Ran a stop sign. We were going for a photo shoot on another presentation that Terry Redmond and I did, and it was going to be a photo shoot of me on my motorcycle in front of a garage saying, "I arrived home safe." And it was ironic. I was at a 4-way stop. I stopped. I waited for the traffic the other way to go, and then I took off, and some person decided that they weren't going to stop, and they barely missed me. And I caught them out of the corner of my eye, and I took off. So it can happen anywhere. It can be another vehicle, but still, people aren't paying attention. You need to pay attention. Age group, really nothing to get from that. It's over the whole spectrum. But it was interesting that it only happened in 2011. So we go to motorcycle equipment. I talked about T-clock earlier. T-clock is something I do. That's my choice, but I really would like everybody to do before they get on the motorcycle. And you check everything, your tires, the equipment, to make sure everything is tight. And there's so many things on there that can save your life. But right here, 2 crashes, 2 fatalities, 2 operator. One was 1 vehicle, 1 was 2 vehicle. All had their M classification, no cycle rider training program. 2012, 2 crashes, again, 2 fatalities. This time 1 operator, 1 passenger. Okay, and I'll get into what happened with that 1 passenger. 1 vehicle, and 1 vehicle, 1 2 vehicle, 1 no M classification, no cycle rider training program. In other words, their skill set was subject to question. What happened? Here we go. Worn front tire. I cannot stress enough. When I see friends of mine that are riding, and they're riding on a bald tire or a tire that doesn't have much tread, I actually get in their face about it, because you shouldn't be doing that. You only have 2 tires. And this one happened to be on a rainy day on a residential street, and they went to stop and they went down. No tread. There was hardly any tread on that front tire from the report from the officer. This one was loose front wheel, residential area again. The witness report said that the front end started to shake really hard, and then they lost control and then they went down. Again, these things, if you see a worn tire, it's really easy to see. I always change mine when they get to the wear mark. People say, oh, you got another 1,000 miles out of it. I said, no, I only got 2 tires. My choice. Everybody has their own choices. Loose front wheel, checking the nuts, checking to make sure everything is tight and secure. This one here, piece came loose and dragged down the roadway, causing loss of control. Piece came loose and hit the pavement and actually, scraped the pavement. They actually measured the scrape mark before they finally lost control. And did it have to happen? No. T-clock. Check your motorcycle every time you ride. That's a choice I make. Something for you to consider. Then this last one, passenger fell off. I talked about it earlier, and I've talked about it often. Be aware of what your passenger's condition is before you let them on the motorcycle. This passenger, unfortunately, their condition was 0.25 BAC with cocaine in their system. They were told to hold on. They were going to take off. With that kind of condition, they didn't hold on. They fell off. Another motorcycle ran over them. Bad situation. Did it have to happen? Choices. Choices. Think about who's going to get on the back of that motorcycle. Construction zone, road conditions. I really thought this was going to be up high on the list, only because I've experienced a lot of it. But 2 crashes in 2011, 2 fatalities, both operators. 2 one vehicle, 1 had no M classification. In 2012, there was 1 crash, 1 fatality, 1 operator, and it was a 3 vehicle crash, and they had their M classification. And you say, what happened? Uneven surface. In 2011, one of them was an uneven surface. It was a construction zone. And you know how you go through the construction zones and you have one lane is higher than the other. That's just a function of what they do. Well, the motorcyclists saw the result of a crash in front of them. They were cleaning that up, and they tried to transition too fast. When in process of transitioning, they lost control and went into the ditch. This one, you say, are scooters part of this? Yes, it is. And this pothole was bigger than the front wheel of the scooter. The front wheel of the scooter went down in it, launched the operator, and as a result, a fatality. Tire debris. And that happened in 2012, and that was the 1 fatality. There was a group riding together, staggered. There was a car in front of them, hit some tire debris, threw the tire debris up, and they tried to maneuver to miss it. It hit both motorcyclists that were in the front there, and they impacted each other. One lived and one didn't make it. That is a difficult one. Again, being aware of your surroundings might have helped, but I'm a believer that if I'm behind a semi, I can't see the road ahead. I can't see what kind of debris I might be coming at. And a semi can actually go over a lot of debris and not really have a problem. Me as a motorcyclist, I can have a lot of problem. So I don't like to ride behind semis. I'll ride to the side, or I'll pass them if I can. So things to consider. Again, here's all of the root causes, and I've highlighted the top 4, 3 of the top 4 in both years. We as bikers have control. We have control of that. We can make a major impact, but it's up to us to make that choice, to make that impact. Here's the breakdown for years. 140 fatal crashes in 2011 that resulted in 144 total fatalities, 131 operators, 13 passengers. 2012, 144 motorcycle crashes, 146 total fatalities, 137 operator fatalities, and 9 passengers. 30 had no M classification in 2011. That's a big number. 23 had no M classification in 2012. We at least need to get the M classifications to really have some sort of test. But in the end, only 17 operators had taken the Illinois motorcycle riding training course in 2011, only 6 in 2012. Does that say that having the training does help? Yeah, I do believe it does. It's a small set of numbers, but it also is an indicator to me that all the training you can get will help you. Will help you in everything you do. But then you get down here, 61 one vehicle, 57 one vehicle, that's only the motorcyclist. That's only the motorcyclist. Now here's a kicker. Impaired riding and driving. 49 motorcycle operators impaired, resulted in 52 fatalities in 2011. 2012, 37 motorcycle operators impaired, 37 fatalities. 11 of the cagers, were impaired with right-of-way violations, resulted in 11 fatalities in both years, 2011 and 2012. That equals 60 crashes and 63 fatalities in 2011, 48 crashes and 48 fatalities in 2012. That's a total of 111 motorcycle fatalities in 2 years due to impairment only. Impairment only. That means if better choices were made, 111 motorcyclists would be here today. Choices. The things we do have the greatest impact. The choices we make have the greatest impact on our lives. 111 lives would have been better. So, again, ride smart is a choice. It is your choice. It's not my choice, it's your choice. When you ride. So what smart riding choices are in your riding future? That's the key. Think about what you've seen. Think about what I've talked about and understand and try to put that in your life, and then think about the choices that you're going to make when you do take that next ride and what kind of impact that's going to have on your life, your family's life, your passenger's life, everybody's life. We can all have fun, but we need to think about the choices we make and see how that's going to impact us. Because isn't this what we want to do? Ride through our great country and see the great scenery? That's what I want to do. I think that's what all of us as bikers and motorcyclists want to do. Let's go out, feel the wind, enjoy it, and have a great ride. All my contact information is here. If you want any more information, please contact me through that information, and I want to thank you very much for your time.